Welcome back to another episode of Building the Pride. I am your host, Drew, and I'm joined once again by my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
I am doing fantastic, Drew. How about yourself?
Good. Work is slow right now, so like every quarter, it seems like every 3 months we slow way down, and right now we're in a bit of a slow patch, which is the worst. I took a half day yesterday because I had everything done that I could do at work in the first 4 hours of work.
And you're like, I don't want to sit here twiddling thumbs, man.
And I mean, like some people, like at my job, we're union based, and some people have mastered that union craft of like stretching out work to its absolute breaking
4
point.
hours of work in 8 hours a window.
I mean, I have seen people stretch 2 hours of work out to 8 hours, and I cannot do it. So I have to stay busy, or I start to like my skin starts to crawl or whatever. So
I am thankfully and unthankfully in the opposite position. It is crazy busy for me. So the days go by fast. We get to do a lot of stuff for a lot of people, but man, is it busy.
So let's just jump into it then.
Let's do it. Yeah, so this is gonna be our 2025 season in review show, correct?
Yeah, we're just going to talk about. You have a hard cap at 1 o'clock, so we're going to try and go fast and furious, as it were.
Let's do it.
Yep. So the Lions defeat the Chicago Bears in Week 18, 19-16, on a last possession field goal from Jake Bates. Did you watch the game?
I did. Yeah.
I thought through 3 quarters, the Lions looked kind of like how I wanted the Lions to look all season.
Yeah.
And then
slow and steady wins the race, right?
Yeah. And then 2 possessions in the fourth quarter, touchdown, 2 point. Oh, tie game. And I'm like, okay, here we go. This was we were leading. You know, we've had control of this game since the onset.
We just couldn't get touchdowns.
Yeah. So
it was like, get down there, kick a field goal. Get down there, kick a field goal. Score a touchdown. Get down there, kick a field goal. We had so many scoring drives and just so few points.
So this is the opposite of what I would consider like the Dan Campbell philosophy, right? Like so often we see Dan Campbell be very aggressive when it comes to like wanting to continue drives, score touchdowns, like not settle. And he settled, you know, and I think that it's fine. I mean, like, I think it put them in a position to be like, okay, Chicago has to score twice and convert twice. And they hadn't been able to do that through 3 quarters. And it seemed like, okay, this is your kind of just like, you're just kind of jujitsu tightening the chokehold, you know, down or whatever, and like you're just going to finally take control of the game. And while that's fine and good, and I think that we have become more accepting of aggressive play calling, especially on 4th down in the NFL and football in general, you know, this was a nice reminder as to why we should get more comfortable with it, because unless you are converting in the red zone and converting for touchdowns, I don't think you're ever really truly safe. Like, I mean, you could be 2 possessions away. I mean, effectively, like, you know, you score, you give the ball back, there's 1 possession for your opponent. If they manage to force you to punt or get a turnover, there's the second possession, and like now you might be right back in the thick of it. Like there's just no lead is ever quote unquote safe, I think, in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, like, oh, okay, like I kind of like what Dan's doing here. And then I was like, oh, but this is why he doesn't do it. This is why he's as aggressive as he is all the time, is because things like this can happen. And, you know, and it took, you know, there was this like ping pong back and forth action in the fourth quarter between the Bears and the Lions. And, you know, we got the ball back, went down. There was an interception. They get the ball like under 3 minutes, I think, or under 4 minutes. And all of a sudden it was like, well, they could go down and get a field goal and just burn this thing down. Like they've been real hot this quarter. What makes me think that they now can't do this, But the Lions hold and then managed to go down and get their own field goal for the win, which was nice. It's a good win, and one that the Lions clearly wanted. Mission accomplished, I suppose, right?
Yeah, for me, I was just like, okay, you don't root against winning, right? Because this is where I was mixed, right? Because like, you want your team to win because wins bring people to you. Losing teams aren't the free agent magnet, right? So finishing on a win is good. There's a little bit of momentum. The young guys get to feel good at the end of the season. Not as good as if they made the playoffs, but so there's positives to winning.
Oh yeah.
Also, we lose draft position, right? And there are negatives to winning in that regard, that we have a worst asset on the draft side for the first round. Well, for each round. And so on the one hand, I don't want to drop down the draft board. On the other hand, there's other benefits to winning. So I was like, if we lose, I'm not going to be upset. If we win, I'm not going to be upset. They kind of balance the scales a little bit. So we won, and we beat a division-winning team, our nearest division rival. So those aren't necessarily bad things.
No, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Right.
So I want to talk about this mindset for a second. So I listened to the Pride of Detroit podcasts, and those guys were talking about what we're talking about today. And so they were also discussing whether or not it was beneficial to go out and win this football game. And they all, to the last of them, were like, I wanted the Lions to win this game. And the reason was the same for all three, was that I watch football to watch my team win.
Right.
Okay. So here's my thinking. So my thinking is, that's fine. You're treating this as entertainment, right? And you get your short-term entertainment, good feeling bump if the Lions did what they did on Sunday and win. But why wouldn't you trade that for isn't this like exercising? I'm going to feel shitty while I exercise, but then long term I feel way better.
Right.
And so neither of these two things happened, but one of these two things was in the Lions' control. If the Lions had gone out and lost this game, and the Ravens had defeated the Steelers, which was out of the Lions' control, and they had whatever, but you have to do your part. The Lions would be drafting in the 13th position in this year's draft and not the 17th spot. Yep. And I know that doesn't seem like a ton, but 4 spots across 8 picks or 7 picks, because the Lions control 7 picks and they control another team's pick in this upcoming class. But it's
a lot of draft value.
It's significant. And so when I listen to the podcasters talk about draft position, they did a couple things, and I think you've already touched on one of them, is that they were like, I would rather go out and win and take the worst draft position in the first round. And I'm like, it's not the first round. It's in every round.
You're right.
You're improving it across 7 picks, not 1 pick. And then the second reason, and I would love your take about this, they said, if Brad Holmes can't find value at pick 17 as opposed to 13, should he be the general manager? And my thought was, well, Brad Holmes can find value picking at 2. Does that mean that he should pick a less talented player because that player is talented? I mean, finding talent is subjective and is subject to scale, right? The earlier that you pick in the draft, you might possibly have access to more talented players, or potentially a better fit if you want to go by the best player available. Whatever draft philosophy you apply to how you want the Lions to draft, they all benefit from picking earlier in the draft.
Right.
So I don't understand why there's ever really a reason to be like, oh, everything else being equal, I just rather pick lower.
Right. I don't think that's the case. I think what they're probably trying to say is there's 4 picks difference. You can still get a really good person at 17 as you can at 13. And they're right in that regard. But like, to your point, maybe the guy that we wanted didn't make it past 13. And now we have to take our second choice or our third choice. Right. So there is the benefit of not having to deal with that or worry about our preferred pick being not available. So, so I get both of. Like I said, I was happy either way. I'm always happy when we win. If we lost, I get the silver lining of a loss is a better draft pick. So either way, like I was kind of like, it doesn't matter. It's as Joey Tribbiani would say, it's a moo point.
It's moo. It's like a cow's opinion.
Yep, it's a cow's opinion. It just doesn't matter. It
just doesn't matter.
So,
well, let's talk about this real quick. So, yeah. Michael, welcome back to the show. Is this a bad season? So let me jump in with mine first. I don't think so. It's not what they hoped.
We're disappointed at the end,
bad, right? Huh?
We're disappointed at the end, but it doesn't mean it was bad.
Correct. Right? Yes. So like we had aspirations of the playoffs and NFC title games and championships, right? And that's not going to happen this year. But like, is this season? And I know Michael's not saying this, but like, is this season bad?
It is bad compared to expectations and hope, right? It's all relative. Was it bad? No. Look at Las Vegas. That was bad.
We've been there.
Look at the New York Jets. That's bad. This was not bad. It is bad in relative, relative to what our expectations and hopes were. We were a 15-win team last year. And we went up against a number 1 ranked team schedule. We had a really hard schedule this year. We lost both of our coordinators, and very rarely does a team make a playoff when they lose 2 coordinators in the same year. And of course, they took other position people as well, right? So we lost coaching staff. Injuries didn't help us either. We lost most of our backfield. We lost some key. To me, one of the biggest differences between this year and last year was last year, our injuries basically were exclusively on the defense. And our offense was the number 1, number 2 offense in the NFL. And because it stayed intact, it could overcome the limitations of the defense. This year, it was split. We didn't have Laporta. We had injuries on our offensive line. We had retirements that are like our offenses didn't have that continuity of like all of our stars, all of our playmakers were available the entire year where it could overcome that. And because of our injuries being split, I think it hurt us big time.
I agree. So let's talk about that a little bit. I guess I have some stats and we've talked about stats and quote unquote stats not being the most telling thing in football or whatever, but I do have some stats.
Raw stats don't tell the whole story. You need context and analysis.
Right.
But raw stats do tell part of the story.
Correct. So I think there are some key team stats that tell a larger truth or a bigger part of the truth than others. So I want to talk about a couple of those because I think it's telling as to how this season went. So I'll share my screen here and see if I can. Okay, here we go. And then this is the part that I always forget to add it to the stage. I wish that I could just add it straight to the stage. All right, so this is the football database, and this is 2025 NFL turnover differential. So right at the top, we see the Chicago Bears, and the reason why they went from a 4th place team to a first in division team and are going to the playoffs this year. They have a plus 22 turnover differential this season. So they have forced 22 more turnovers this year than they have given up. That is remarkable. That's an average of 1.3 turnovers a game. Okay. So if we scroll down to see the bottom of the NFL, oh, look, there's the New York Jets, who are picking number 2.
The Jets were historically bad. They were the first team to ever go an entire season with 0 interceptions.
That's amazing.
The previous number was 2 interceptions set in 1933. That's how bad the Jets' pass defense was this year.
So that is prior to the actual formation of the NFL, which was 57, I believe. So if we look, though, Detroit is sitting down here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th. They are 9th with plus 4 turnovers to their name. And I don't know if this thing says what last year was.
If you could scroll up to the top, you can choose a different year.
Oh, right. I have to make the screen smaller in order to do it. So Detroit was plus 9. So, I mean, half of the turnovers, our turnover differential was cut in half.
Still positive, but
right. So
1 out of every 3 games didn't get a turnover this year that would have last year.
Exactly. So and I think that when I look at what I consider to be the quote unquote key stats for NFL franchises on a year-to-year basis, there's 5 of them. It's turnover differential, third down conversion rates, what you allowed your opponents to convert third down, red zone efficiency, and what you allowed your opponents to do in red zone. And those are the key things that I look at when I think let's compare year to year to see how we've done. And the Lions are positive. They have plus 4 turnovers this year, but and they're only one of 9 teams in the NFL, I think, or not 9 teams, 12 teams that had a positive turnover differential. But I don't think that this output is enough, to say, ooh, we're providing ourselves more opportunities than, we're giving our opponents. To me, this says the Lions had basically the same amount of opportunities as their opponents did this year to score points. And I think the big reason that our turnover differential is as poor as it is that Kirby Joseph only played 6 games and was hurt most of them.
Yep.
And he's usually got hurt. Yeah. And so he's usually sitting back there playing center field, and he's usually good for 4 to 6 picks. If this was 8 or 10, I think we'd be sitting there, 3 spots, 4 spots higher potentially. And I mean, this is one of the things that I think the Lions should look at when it comes to adding players in the offseason, is that they don't generate a lot of turnovers on this team. And I think that if anything is shown, this is the number one thing in the NFL that indicates if you want to go from a 4th place to a 1st place finish, go generate turnovers, and the Bears played a bunch of bad teams, and I'm sure that really helps because they played a 4th place schedule, which the Lions will get.
Strength of schedule does matter, whether people believe it or not, right? So, and yes, every team that they're playing is an NFL team, and they are NFL players. That doesn't make them a well-performing team, right? We look at the Jets, 0 interceptions for the entire season. First time in history someone's had less than 2. That's bad. They are an NFL team. That is a bad pass defense. That is bad coverage.
It is bad. So here's the next one, and I'll just read off the third one here. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So this is how teams performed on third down, and I love all the ads on this site. It really adds a lot to me, for me. But like, here's Detroit at 20th, like with a 38.79% third down completion percentage, down from almost 47%, which would be a difference of 9 points. Well, let's call it 39. That would be so 8 points. Let's say it's generously 8 points. 8 percentage points less on converting on third down. And like, this is what I've been yelling all year about. Like, David Montgomery needs more carries. David Montgomery's the down to down back. David Montgomery helps get the team in like manageable, like conversion like situations. And this is what I would consider to be the statistical proof of my opinion, is that the Lions have dropped their ability to convert on third down by 8 points, 8 percentage points from last year to this year. And this isn't like we had 100 opportunities in 2024 and 20 opportunities in 2025. This is just how well you did it over whatever the sample sizes were in each season, and it's like they were just worse. So, I mean, is it the interior of the offensive line was that much worse and therefore they didn't want to use David Montgomery, or I don't know, but like they were worse at converting on third down.
I think they went ooh shiny because people like home runs, right? They're big, they're splashy, they're fun. They score points, right? And Jahmyr Gibbs is a home run hitter. And not that Monty can't be one of those, but like Gibbs is electric and exciting and can just break one at any point. But he's not the power that Monty is. And so therefore he's going to strike out more. Monty will hit the single more often than Gibbs, because he's going to fall forward. He's going to push some guy over and get the extra yard or two, whereas Gibbs just isn't as big or powerful. So I think they really wanted to threaten the home run, and that required Gibbs being on the field more often. So one of the questions I have for you, because I'm looking at PFF's final grades for the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think, considering we missed the playoffs, where would you put, and maybe you've already seen these numbers, but where would you put the Lions on the overall team grade? Where do you think they rank?
I know where it is. Is it fifth?
It is third overall with a 93.3. Yeah. Overall offense, we are fifth. But overall, we are third in the NFL at 93.3, which is an elite level. Mm-hmm. We have a total offense. We are fifth with an 82.8. Passing, we are 10th with 77.0, which is still real good. Obviously, top 10. Receiving, we are number 2 at 89.1. Running, we are 16th with a still decent 79.2. Defense, we have the 5th overall defense grade. Like, how is it that we are that good and overall and over all these different categories and not making the playoffs? Like, what is it that takes a team that is otherwise high end and then not get them the wins that you would think would happen with those kind of grades? Is it just injuries? Is it play calling?
Well, I mean, so
because that's play calling is not a stat, right? That it's not a grade, but it probably should be. I just don't know how you'd measure it.
So the stats, the PFF grades that you're reading include the players who played after injury.
Yep.
So like the backups and the backups of the backups and the practice squad guys and all that, they're contributing to those scores. So like that's with all of them. So
so this is where we're at overall, right? 93.3 is real good. Everybody around us, playoff teams, and we're not. And it's very frustrating. But I have a feeling injuries play a really big part of that. And we look at like some of our lowest grade, like even the Rams, right? They're the number one overall, but their tackling grade is only a 51.8. Our lowest grade across the board is only a 63, which is pass blocking, and puts us way down at 23rd. But our pass offense is still top 10. Overall, we're third. Defense overall, we're fifth. Our run defense was fourth. Our pass rush was fifth. Our coverage was actually still top 10 considering the injuries. That's not bad. And our special teams was sixth. It's like overall, we got a damn good team. I think we got a lot of hope for next year as well. That's kind of what I see out of all of this is while we didn't make the playoffs and we had a couple games that really kind of pulled us out of that, which is unfortunate. Most of the players played really well. Most of the phases of the game were quite well. And I think if we have a good off season, I don't see why we can't go back and lead the division next year.
Well, and that's just it. Is that like, they are going to have a fourth place schedule, and because of that, they end up playing, I believe it's the Titans, the Dolphins, and the Giants next season, all because they finished fourth with a winning record in the division on tiebreakers, right?
Yep.
And so we do know our 2026 opponents. Is that where you're pulling up? So I think, so here's the overall like synopsis of the Detroit Lions, in my opinion. They beat bad teams pretty easily, and they struggle to play against quality teams or elite teams, which sounds like common sense, right? But if you're one of the bad teams, you don't beat other bad teams, right? So it's subject to scale. And the Lions are going to get 3 really, really bad teams next season because of where they finished. So I think next season is a 12-win season. I'll put money on it right now. Like,
and if anybody wants to know, like, what an example of the difference between a top schedule is, a first place schedule, and the last place, you can look at the big not controversy, but like the big talking points in the MVP race, right?
Yep.
The Rams played a first place schedule because they won their division last year. The Patriots played the fourth place schedule. The Patriots opponents gave up 1,138 more points than they scored cumulatively over the season, which is mind-boggling to me. But when you play the Jets twice and when you're playing the Giants and you're playing Vegas, that's the benefit of a fourth place schedule, is because you are going to play other fourth placers. Where the Rams, they played the hell, even just in their division. I think this is the first time they've had a division that had 3 teams win 12 or more games. So they played Seattle, they played San Francisco, they played other first place teams. So like it's a stark contrast between the type of teams that New England had to play versus LA. And we get that benefit going into next year. We're going to get a really bad Jets team. We're going to get a really bad Giants team. We're going to get a bad Tennessee team. We're going to get a not particularly good Saints team. And we're going to still have some decent teams in there just because there's only so many games each year that are based on schedule. Some of them is just predetermined. But like, we're also going to get a bad Cardinals team. We're going to get a not particularly great Falcons team. The Dolphins, I wouldn't consider particularly great. They missed the playoffs this year. So like, I think we're going to have kind of a cake schedule, and I'm hoping that we can do something similar to what New England did this year, which was beat the crap out of bad opponents when you're supposed to.
Yeah, if they don't do it, I mean, like, I'm all in about, like, normally I'm about like the Super Bowl or bust. Nope. I don't think that this was a successful season. I don't think it was a bad season. I don't think it was a successful one because they didn't reach their expectations. But like next season, I'm going to be like, you knew Frank Ragnow was retired. You've now had a year and a half to plan for it. You have signed all the guys. You've been able to get people healthy in the off season. Like Sam Laporta said that he should be in pads by mini camp. So it looks like that he'll be back week 1. Assuming there's no setback. He had a successful back surgery for a fully herniated disc in his neck.
Man, that's painful.
6 weeks ago, Penny Sewell will have a whole season or a whole off season to rest up, and like getting him healthy is, I think, more important than like quote unquote getting him in shape. So I'd be interested to see what happens there. And then of course they're going to have the off season. They're going to have the draft. They're going to have opportunities, as all the other teams will, to make this team better. And I think that the team will be better next season than it is this season, and they have an easier schedule. And like it's I'm fine with saying next season is like, when Dan Campbell lost and the Lions lost in the NFC title game a couple of years ago, and he was like, we might never get back here. Well, this is the setup for how you get back there, is 2026. Like, you have an easier schedule than you should ever realistically have. Like, you had a slightly down year, and all you need to really do is to get healthy, establish more continuity, and add a little bit of talent. And I think that the margins play themselves out in your favor. So, yeah.
And speaking of the off season, one of the things that we have to figure out is who's coming back, who's getting cut, who are we going to try to sign, and we don't know who's going to be available in free agency yet, and who's going to re-sign with their teams. But we have a list of guys that are on our team that we have to make decisions on. They've got Pride of Detroit. They're awesome. So I'm using their list, which I'm assuming is pretty thorough. I can't imagine they're missing anybody. But the bolded ones are starters. So Khalif Raymond is a decision, unrestricted free agent or restricted. DJ Reader, Marcus Davenport, Alex Anzalone, Amik Robertson, all of those guys are unrestricted free agents. So looking at this list, and not just the highlighted starters, but like, who do you see coming back next year, and who do you think should be a priority?
So just do me a quick scroll top to bottom on the list.
Yep.
Okay. So I would go
Kennedy, Tyrus Wheaton, Nowaski are restricted.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't need these people. I just needed the unrestricted.
Yeah. Yep.
So number one, the guy that you should re-sign, in my opinion, is DJ Reader, and number two is Khalif Raymond, and the other three guys don't matter, in my opinion. So I think that Alex Anzalone is probably a New York Jet at this time next year. Amik Robertson might be as well. Amik Robertson still has, I think he's 27 or 28 and probably has one more mid-sized contract in him. And I don't think Detroit either has the money or will be interested in paying the money for a quote-unquote third corner when Ennis Rakestraw, quote-unquote, might be healthy. You might draft a corner. I don't think that he's going to be
free agency.
I don't think that he's going to be the kind of priority that he thinks he's going to be in Detroit.
Well, and the interesting thing, we've talked about the scarcity problem and the availability problem, why certain quarterbacks, like high-end quarterbacks, just don't go on the open market for free agency, hardly ever. Tackles, left tackles, right tackles, they just the high-end ones don't end up on the free agent market. And when we look at our positions of value, we essentially have the three main on offense: quarterback, tackle, and wide receiver. And then the three main on defense is cornerback, edge rusher, and defensive tackle are the top three positions of value on the defense. Cornerback, out of all of those, is the most widely accessible on the free agent market.
Because there's a ton of them. Right. I mean, it's crazy to think how many corners there are compared to every other position other than wide receiver.
And good ones are available too.
Yeah.
It's not just, you can go out and get a corner. You can get good corners on the free agent market.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I think
I'll say one thing. I would push back just a touch and say I would try to bring back Anzalone if the price is right.
I disagree. I'll push back on your pushback.
And the reason I say that is he's serviceable. Is he a top 15? Hey, props, and it might have been one of your preseason bold bets, but Jack Campbell was I believe, the number 1 graded linebacker in the NFL this year. So props to Jack. Awesome. Anzalone's serviceable. And if we could get another year out of him where we can maybe draft a linebacker in the middle rounds and let them sit behind Anzalone as a depth piece, or just buy us a year where we don't have to deal with it, I feel like, depending on the price, I would bring him back as another stopgap year for that position group. But why would you push back on that?
So here's why I push back on it. Like, I think they're paying him $7 million a year, right? So they've already committed to Derek Barnes at $8 million a year. And I don't think the linebacking core is very good. I think there's almost no athleticism in our linebacking core outside of Jack Campbell. And I think that
Barnes is more athletic than Anzalone. So
agreed.
You're going to pick the athletic one. It's going to be Barnesy.
Right. And so, like, my question is, are you going to commit even the same money to Anzalone that you committed to this year? And remember, there was a bit of a contract dispute, not much of one, but there was, I think I'm worth more than this. And the Lions disagreed and eventually gave him what amounted to breadcrumbs. And he was like, okay, cool. Thank you.
Guaranteed breadcrumbs.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was like 25 grand. I mean, it was like nothing. Yeah. So I think the Lions are going to take the approach. Go ahead and look. Go ahead and look what free agency has available for you. They've taken this approach with other people in the past, and I think what's either going to happen is he's going to look around and get somebody that's bad with money to spend, like Tennessee or New York, is going to say, oh, you're a veteran presence. We'll happily give you $1 million more than you're quote unquote worth to come and be that for our team. Yeah. And then, or he'll not find that. And the Lions are like, we'll give you $5 million, to come back or whatever, and so either way, I don't think that the Lions are going to actively go out and be like, we need you on this team next year. We want you here on this team next year. And because of that, I don't think that he's in the mix. And so
that's fair.
And like, the Lions are coming up to we're going to have to start restructuring people for cap space, part of their roster construction, and if you draft a 3rd round or a 2nd round linebacker, you're going to save $6 to $6.5 million a year. And if you were to have some kind of comparison between player production and what they're being paid, there's no doubt, there's no way that that's not the better play, even if you take a dip in linebacker play. And like, my favorite draft crush in this class is Sonny Styles from Ohio State, which just makes me want to vomit, but there it is. I mean, but like, if you put Sonny Styles in the Alex Anzalone spot next to Jack Campbell, I mean, I think the Lions have one of the best linebacker groups in the country next season, and it's just like, if you can get that guy next to Jack Campbell for 3-4 years, that's just a win.
Yeah.
And like, I think I agree, Alex Anzalone is serviceable, but like, that's a clear spot to upgrade. I don't think Malcolm Rodriguez is also a free agent. I don't even know that he's back. I mean, like, I think that he's just a core special teamer at this point. Like, he is. I
think if he's paid as a special teamer and a depth linebacker, I think we bring him back fairly inexpensively. I just don't think he's going to get a ton on the open market.
Well, I mean, it just might. I mean, like, I think that if he's like, we'll give you a chance to come in and compete for like our 3rd linebacker role on any other team, and they give him like, I don't know, $4 million a year, like, I think that he's gone. And I would love to keep Malcolm Rodriguez, but he outside of this last game, I think in Chicago where he got some meaningful snaps, he's just been horrible since he came back from injury. I mean, it's just been awful.
Yeah.
And, like to me, that tells me like there were some questions like, could this guy develop? And I'm like, you made the point like, well, let's keep Anzalone one more year, get a backup in there and like, season him up, a little bit like they're doing with Tyleik Williams this year. And I agree with that, except that they had that plan in there 3 years ago.
Right.
And it just didn't work out. I mean, so that's the problem that I think that the Lions are currently having with a lot of these like quote unquote developmental backup plans is that the backups aren't panning out to be starters. Like Broderick Martin didn't work out. He's off the team. Like Giovanni Manu is not working out. He's still on the team. Sione Vaki is this core special teamer. Malcolm Rodriguez is a core special teamer. Like none of them have proven that they're even backup quality players that can come in and play anywhere near the level that the starters are playing. So if I look at this list, I want DJ Reader because run defense is the quote unquote core of the identity of the Detroit Lions defense. And then I want Kalif Raymond because he has two things that I think that the Lions need. And one is that he is unbelievably fast. And that has not diminished yet. And he is a all-pro kick returner. And so even if he only returns punts next year, I think that he's worth having on there, but you have to sign him as a punt returner, not as your fourth wide receiver. Isaac TeSlaa needs to play the majority of snaps next season. And I think that you could even draft another wide receiver to be the quote unquote fourth wide receiver.
Agreed.
On the team. And Kalif Raymond is a core special teamer moving forward, but like he might also
gadget guy for those random, right?
But like, will the Atlanta Falcons be like, we want you to come like be our punt returner plus like our third wide receiver? Like I think that there's a lot of opportunity and just a little bit more money for a lot of the people on this list. Like the more concerning thing to me is that like Frank Ragnow, like Jared Goff has said that he doesn't think that Frank Ragnow is going to come back and try again in this offseason. So, and then both Dan Skipper and Taylor Decker nailed it, were asked after the Chicago Bears game, like, what do you think next season has in store for you? And both of them were like, this might be the last one.
Right.
So there's a real chance that like the offensive line going in next year. Oh, and Graham Glasgow also looks like he could retire. And so even if people don't,
if not, he's going to be cut. Right. I mean, it's like a $6 million savings and he was horrendous.
I mean, this is the Kindle Vilder thing all over again, which I think is that like most people don't like him, but the Lions organization has trust in him. And so like, I could see them retaining him to be on the roster, even if he isn't a starter, just to be like, here you go. But like, we still don't know what the plan is at center. I think the best thing that you could do is to sign a center on the free agent market or just trade for one straight up. And like, I would overpay in a trade for somebody like Eric McCoy from New Orleans. Like if you could pry Eric McCoy, I would give up a 3rd round pick if we had one, which we don't, for Eric McCoy if they would let him go, So other than that, it's tough. So
yeah, and looking at this, I agree with Kalif, primary special teamer, returner, maybe a gadget play type of guy on offense, but very few snaps because TeSlaa, I think, is the real deal and can be more than what Leaf does. And I think DJ Reader is a big piece to our defense. He plugs up the middle and does a great job there. Amik, he's been fine, but I think he's going to price himself out of what we're willing to pay. But as I'm looking at some of these, I'm kind of curious of your thoughts on a couple other guys. Roy Lopez. Yeah. He looked pretty good in the action he got, especially the last half of the season. Would he be a guy that you would want to try to prioritize at the right price?
I think that they should bring him back solely because I don't think they have any depth at nose tackle. So like, I think that if they let DJ Reader go, which I would chalk up as a mistake, and they let Tyleik Williams take over that spot, I don't think they played Tyreek enough this season to really understand whether or not he could be a DJ Reader replacement. And, and like he was allowed to primarily play in a position that was not nose tackle because Aleem McNeil was hurt for so much of the season, and like then lost snap count because Aleem came back and they weren't willing to play Tyreek over DJ Reader, which was correct, So like, I don't know that whether Tyreek can do it next year, which was my problem with the pick when they made it. And because like this kind of situation seems like it was so easy to play out in the future and like say, well, I wonder what happens if they play DJ Reader and then play Tyreek at 3 tech, and then Aleem comes back, and then what do you do with Tyreek? Like I don't. That never.
Depth is not a bad thing. Right?
Sure, but now like here we go again. Like you invested a first round pick in what was supposed to be like a plan for the future, but now what's the plan?
Was he first or was he second?
Oh, he was first. He was our first round pick last season or last draft. So I think you have to resign Lopez because he's the only guy on the roster right now that is going to be a nose tackle. So, yeah, I would sign him to almost starter money, to be honest, because I think that the Lions, once again, like after all the effort that they've put into having like backup plans and like succession plans at these different positions, have failed to accomplish it.
And then AQ Muhammad looked real. I think he ended up with 11 and a half sacks or something like that. He looked really, really impressive. To me, this is one of those guys I think we absolutely need to bring back. What were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I would agree with you, but like having watched how the Lions have played him, they are happy to give him heavy snap counts against teams that really want to pass, and they will just not play him at all against teams that really want to run the ball. And like, okay, but then that tells me that he's Aiden Hutchinson's backup and not the starting defensive end across from Aiden Hutchinson. If you want to,
but can he be that?
I think that the Lions have told us that. I think this season is proof of what the Lions have said, is that like if you put him across from Aiden Hutchinson, he could have a 10+ sack season. Cool. Like if you look at what our defensive ends did this season, I either talked about this with you or by myself a little bit, is that if like he only had like 475 snaps this season, like and Aiden had 1,000 or something. So if you give him 600 snaps, does he have 15 sacks too? If you got 30 sacks out of your starting defensive ends, every team in the NFL would be like, yup, doing it. And like, we'll sacrifice the run defense for the 15 sacks, So like, and that's fine, or whatever. But then you would better have a good nose tackle. You'd better have the ability to like have your linebackers chase down running backs and fill gaps. And like, so this is the problem, right? This is the Venn diagram, is that like, yeah, if you re-sign DJ Reader and like you make an investment with like a young linebacker, then yeah, go ahead and sign AQ Muhammad and play him there full time. But like, I think that they view him as a matchup end. Otherwise Marcus Davenport wouldn't be playing in week 18. Otherwise, like, what happens when Josh Paschal's finally healthy and decides to come back? He's the next guy on the list.
And I think you bring back AQ over either of those guys.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right.
I think that the just production on the field warrants him as an inclusion. But like, I think that if you bring him back, he should be your starter this year.
I agree, and I think he's shown that he probably can do it. He just needs more snaps. Give him the opportunity to show that he can do more in more situations, more downs.
Yeah, but I mean, he's also going to be, I think he's either going to be 30 or 31 next season. And, how much do you want to sign him to a 1-year deal? Because like a 10, 11, 12 sack season for him might have like the Titans say, We need a veteran guy with some juice to come in and play with all of our rookies and show them how to do it. So like the Lions have this problem, I think, with a lot of these guys where it's like they're either looking for years or they're looking for money. For Ike Muhammad, like he might take a 1-year, $10 million deal, but then, all right, like, do you want $10 million and 10 sacks coming off the books and after the 2026 season? Like this is starting to become very, very nuanced roster building with this roster. And I don't,
when you're in the upper middle, it has to be right. When you're bad, you're just like, turn it all over, guys. But like when you're good,
that is a key question that's being asked right now in the fan base, is that like for up until this point, the Lions were built on first contract rookies, basically like young guys, St. Brown, Hutch, McNeil, Terry and Arnold, Tyreek, Jack, Jahmyr Gibbs, Branch. I mean, there's a lot of them, right? And they're all cheap. And so it's easy when you're just into the league and getting used to it and haven't been hurt yet to be like grit and grr and run through a wall and fire and all these great words. And then you see it on the field. But did you see it this year? Did you see it now that they're 26? Did you see it now that they're paid, now that they've been hurt once? Have you seen it now that they've been through the grind of an 18-week season 4 or 5 times? I mean, like, if you take your grit, if you take your grit down, by 8 percentage points or whatever, if you're 8% less gritty, what does that look like? If your whole fucking culture and philosophy is built on, we're going to outwork you, we're going to run through the wall harder, we're going to be more gritty, more tough, more of everything intrinsically that a football player should be. If we're going to draft the football player as opposed to like the positional fit, if we're going to draft the football player over like the positional value and that kind of stuff, like, then you have to be that all of the time.
Yeah.
Because if you're just talented, your talent walks out with you onto the field. But if you're just not feeling it that day, your grittiness stays on the sideline.
Yeah. And I think that's where the loss of the snaps for Montgomery, I think, is a direct correlation to the loss of the grittiness of our team during the season.
Yeah.
I mean, so we got about 7 minutes left, and I know we want to talk about coordinator because we fired John Morton. Real quick before that, Rock Ya-Sin seems. I mean, I thought he filled in really, really well. I think he's a no-brainer to bring back. What are your thoughts?
I think you bring him back, but I think it's with the idea that he is a primary backup at like one of 3 spots. Like,
yeah,
and like I think that he's probably played well enough to earn near starter level snaps on the team, even if everybody's healthy.
Yeah. Don't bring back a Meek because he's probably going to be wanting too much money. Whoops. And bring back Rock and put him in for a Meek snaps.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's like, I think that there are, I mean, like Avonte Maddox is another guy in the same spot to me. Like Avonte Maddox has played since like Branch went down, has been our free safety and had 1 bad game and like 3 good ones, and so I'm like, I'll take it out of a backup. You want to, and like some of his good games weren't like he's scoring a 60 or 65 on a PFF grade. He was like 85, 90. I mean, like, and so like he had the interception against the Bears on that post or whatever. And so like, I think that he's a guy just like Ya-Sin that's just like, yep, when you asked me to do the job, I did the job. So I earned another 1 year. I get to play in the NFL another year, right?
Yep.
So I would bring them back.
All right. So in our last 6 minutes or so, we have a coordinator. I wasn't sure if we were going to fire Morton. We took away his play calling duties. Dan Campbell did. I'm like, there's more to being an offensive coordinator, just calling plays. So I'm like, maybe he does enough to keep his job. But Dan even said, I wish I didn't have to call plays. I'd like to focus on other game management things. So as soon as he said that, I thought that clock's ticking for Johnny. So Johnny Morton's out, offensive coordinator positions open. breaking-ish news. Mike McDaniel was fired as head coach of the Dolphins.
Quit it.
I believe my preseason was he would be fired by Thanksgiving. He lasted till the end of the year. So I was wrong on that, on the timing anyway. Is he a guy that we want, or who would your coordinator choice be if it wasn't him?
Well, so here's the problem, I think, with a lot of the coordinator talk right now is that a lot of the coordinator talk comes from, are you a good coordinator? Okay, what quarterback were you coordinating for? So like Todd Monken is out in Baltimore, but he was a coordinator for Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is nothing like Jared Goff. Is that like he's my pick? Like he's the guy that I would like to see the Lions bring in. But like I also don't know, like, have you worked often with 225-pound, 6'4" statues? So like,
right.
How have you made them perform? Or whatever. So like Mike McDaniel, great. Like I think that Mike McDaniel is an interesting guy, different philosophy from what's on this team. Like, is he a culture fit with what the Detroit Lions want to do? Because he very much seems like I'm going to go out and onto the beach and put my toes in the sand with like a Corona and just like let absorb nature's beauty, man. And I'm just like, I don't get that vibe in Detroit. Like, are you a vibe fit for us? You might be a fucking genius, but are you a vibe fit?
We might go barefoot, but we're going to be walking across gravel and broken glass.
And so like, but is his kind of like throw to a spot anticipatory offense that they employed with Tua a better fit for somebody like Jared Goff, because he's not the kind of guy that can like break the pocket and extend plays regularly. So like if you build the offense into like, we want you to throw to this spot because we're going to scheme it open for you, like that does seem closer to what I think Jared Goff needs than say like, okay, well, it's 2nd and 6, so we're going to call a QB draw,
Right.
like, so I do think that John Morton,
6 QB draw with Jared Goff. Good.
I mean, I do think that it's correct for them to fire John Morton because I think that it's once again clear Dan Campbell is the head coach of this team, not a coordinator for this team. And he very clearly wants to delineate those responsibilities to somebody else so that he can manage the team.
Yep. So, which is his main job.
Which is fine. I'm happy to let him do those things because I think that because he had to be the offensive play caller, his ability to be the head coach was diminished this season. So I do want them to go get a new offensive coordinator. I have no idea who the correct fit would be. There's lots of people right now that are available to fulfill that role. I don't know that. I mean, but this is the brain drain on the roster, right? Is that like we went out and got Morton because he'd been in the building and understood what was going on, and that was not a fit. So now what do you do? Mike Disner, our COO of the team, is also interviewing with the Atlanta Falcons for one of their front office openings. So there could be more brain drain across the entire spectrum of the Lions organization, not just the coaching staff. So it's interesting right now.
Yeah, I appreciate Dan. We talk a little bit about sunk cost fallacy, right? And a lot of times that goes with the players you sign, the players that you draft, and the staff that you hire, right? Like Dan could have said, you know what? I don't want to admit I was wrong, that I brought this person in and he wasn't a good fit. I'm going to give him another year. And then it is better to get rid of someone a year too early than a year too late. And I appreciate that he recognized that we don't want to give this another year. I'm going to make the call. Said I hired the wrong guy. Let's move on. Let's get somebody new. Let's do it right the second time. So it takes. I mean, you see a lot of coaches sticking with coordinators and GM sticking with coaches because they were afraid to admit that they were wrong with their selection. And so I love the fact that he's like, "Yep, I was wrong. I'm gonna fix it." So hopefully we're right the next time, right? So he's had a pretty good history of picking the right people. I mean, the last two coordinators all ended up as head coaches. Guys like Hank Fraley were wanted across the league for different coordinator positions. Like, he does a good job of picking people, but you're never going to be perfect. So I'll be curious to see who he takes as our next coordinator. Maybe it's Fraley. I feel like he probably wants someone from outside of the building, but I don't know, maybe not. I personally would prefer somebody that has done it before successfully. Doesn't mean that they couldn't have been fired. Like, if I was the New York Giants, just because John Harbaugh got fired doesn't mean I'm like, well, he's a bad coach now. Dude's great. New York should take him, right? So, like, it doesn't have to be a coordinator that's leaving on his own. It could be someone that got fired because it was a bad, fit for them. But I wouldn't mind a Mike Macdonald. I wouldn't mind one of those kinds of guys that is a coordinator, a successful coordinator in another team.
And just real quick, lastly, I'll say I think that Calvin Shepard did a great job this season. And I have no qualms whatsoever about him as our defensive coordinator.
Agreed.
So, well, that'll do it for us today. So we can't meet you back here next week for a victory Thursday, Friday.
Victory. Yeah.
But what we can do is start breaking down the position groups from the season and maybe look forward to what the Lions will be doing this off season. And I think we should probably start with the offensive line, Mike. There seems to be the most controversy and turnover yet again in the offensive line. So let's plan to meet back here hopefully next week and discuss what we could do about what we could be doing in the offseason with the O-line.
Sounds like a plan. Good to see you, buddy.
Thanks, man.
All right, we'll see y'all.
Goodbye.